Isn't that a beautiful picture? Just fantastic. And 50 years after Selma, we've been talking so much about Selma, what would Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. think of the state of our union? How far have we come, and how far do we still have to go? So joining me now is Democratic strategist Van Jones, Republican strategist Kevin Madden, and Tara Setmayer, and New York Times op-ed columnist Charles Blow. And look at this picture. 1, 2, 3, 4 African Americans, 1 white guy in the middle. Segment over. No.
We have overcome.
Look at that. I made Charles Blow smile. My gosh, that was good. Okay, so Tara, I'm going to start with you. So let's take a look at this tweet. This tweet is from Seattle Seahawks. As we know, they're headed to the Super Bowl, and they tweeted this. "We shall overcome. Hashtag MLK Day," with a photo that included the MLK quote, "Take the first step in faith. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step." And they later tweeted an apology saying that they didn't intend to compare football to the civil rights legacy of Dr. King. Do they need to apologize?
No.
Were they just paying tribute? What? Why would you say they didn't need to apologize?
Because I think that they were being clever. It was clearly a double entendre. They took advantage of what happened yesterday, which was a fantastic NFC championship game, where for most people, they thought the Seattle Seahawks had no chance. They came back, overtime win in dramatic fashion, and Russell Wilson, an African-American quarterback, wept with joy in the middle of the field because they overcame such a huge obstacle in football. I don't really think that Martin Luther King would be insulted that his idea of being able to overcome the odds for success and having steps in faith would be used in so many different ways. I don't think he'd be offended by that. People need to just stop. This is like a grievance industry that's completely out of control.
Well, first of all, let me just say, for once, we actually agree on something. I think that Dr. King is bigger than just this protest figure, this so serious, everything. So he's also become an inspirational figure. He inspires millions of people. People turn to him and his quotes in times when they are trying to overcome things. I thought it was perfectly fine. I think they made a mistake by taking it down. They made more news taking it down than they did putting it up.
Well, that was like you when we came to the segment and you said, "We shall overcome." I kind of thought of it as a joke like that, like, hallelujah. But anyway, you know.
It's PC gone amok. It's ridiculousness.
You know, Charles, you know, many of us today are thinking about the legacy of Dr. King, about the holiday in context. Many people are with Michael Brown, Eric Garner, with the protests that have been going on across the country. What does the legacy of MLK Jr. look like today?
Well, it's a really broad question. I think, you know, I'll try to condense this as much as I can. I mean, there are some things that Martin Luther King fought for that are obvious successes. You know, the codes written into the law that specifically discriminated in writing against people of color. That is one of the things he fought for, and that has obviously been overcome. However, there are other things that Martin Luther King fought for, stood for, that we are still addressing to this day. The kind of structural bias that we encounter today is the second step in this fight for equality. I think we are still wrestling with that. Martin Luther King also, though, I think, you know, one of the things that we don't think about Martin Luther King as is this really radical figure. If you look at his '67 speech on the anti-Vietnam speech, you know, he's clearly a very anti-war figure, and he is putting his anti-war stance in the context of the war taking away resources from the poor. Mm-hmm. And I think that this idea of him being a tremendous advocate for, you know, anti-poverty advocate is often overlooked. If you look at, even if you look at the Washington March on Washington, that was a march on Washington for jobs and freedom, and people don't even think about it that way. They really just think about it as the "I have a dream" speech. They think about it as racial conciliation speech, and they kind of overlook his absolute passion for dealing with issues of poverty in this country.
I wanted to, let's bring Kevin in then, because Kevin, the president, is expected tomorrow to use his speech to talk about tax credits, talk about income equality or inequality. He wants the wealthy to pay more taxes. He wants to even the playing field. Republicans are opposed to this. What do you make of that?
Well, I think it's obviously it's a very different worldviews that Republicans and Democrats have. I think Republicans, of course, care about inner city communities. They care about giving those that are going through poverty a better life, greater opportunity. They just want to do it somewhat differently. The Democrats, of course, I think they also care about these communities, and they also care about raising income levels, but they believe that the government is the best vehicle to do that. And I think the big question for folks watching this speech is going to be whether or not the president is looking for political leverage. Does he want to stake out a position and ultimately find some broader tax deal with Republicans, or does the president want to play politics? Does he want to sort of reframe the Republicans against the middle class? And it'll be interesting to see whether or not Republicans offer up some counter proposals to fight that perception.
It is interesting to hear Republicans now talk about income equality.
Well, I don't think that that's something Republicans have never talked about. It's something that's been, thrown in the face of Republicans because they don't propose bigger government solutions, so that makes them anti. That's absolutely not the case. From the conservative perspective, it's always been about empowering the individual and getting and providing opportunities, not guaranteeing outcomes. I mean, the war on poverty 50 years later, we spent $21 trillion, and it's been a catastrophic failure.
That's
I think that
true.
Martin Luther King would look at what's going on. Yes, it is. It's a catastrophic failure.
That's not true,
you have 27%. You had 27%. How is it not true? You have 80 means-tested federal welfare programs, and you have 27% of people who were in poverty in 1967. 29% are in poverty now.
Sharon, let him finish.
Well, you can't accuse me of it being untrue and then not let me finish. Go for it.
No, but if you look at the statistics of the number of people who were elderly, who were impoverished before, particularly before New Deal, but even after that, as well as other kind of social safety net programs came into effect, it is significantly lower. If you look at the effects of malnutrition, there were incredible concentrated levels of
$21 trillion later, you think that the war on poverty
well, I think if you think that people should be malnourished, then maybe it's a failure.
I think that
if you think that elderly people should be poor, then maybe it's a failure. But if you do not think those things, then it is not that, Tara.
We started off so nice, Don.
I know. We'll be right back. We'll be right back. You guys can go to break.